So we
Stop watching Fox or CNN or whatever you watch with fake people, great people.
How's it going? This is James Kleiman, and I'm the managing web editor here at The Real Deal. And as you know, every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, we get some of the top figures in the industry to talk about what they're seeing in their respective markets. And I'm really excited today is one that I think is a really interesting one, given just kind of how people are moving and the different times that we live in. We're going to talk about what's going on in the suburbs, specifically for home buyers and for renters. And so joining me today, we have three of the top names in brokerage. We have Heather Harrison of Compass, who's leading the brokerage in Westchester County. Heather, hello.
Thank you. Hi, welcome.
Hi. We have Paul Brunick of William Pitt and Julia B. Fee, a franchise of Sotheby's. They're out in Connecticut. Paul, welcome.
Thank you.
And finally, we have Deirdre O'Connell, who's a broker and the CEO of Daniel Gill Sotheby's in Long Island. And she has signs all over Long Island, so I know that they're selling a lot of homes. So thank you for joining me, Deirdre.
Thank you for having me.
All right, and I want to start off by saying, I think everyone here is probably a pretty big news consumer. And if you read the New York Times, if you read the Post, you read any of the city tabloids, they're going to tell you that there's nobody left in New York, that they've all left. They're in Florida, they're in Arizona, they're with their parents in Michigan, they're in Long Island hanging out with Deirdre, they're in Westchester checking out the school system, they're in New Jersey even. I don't know why they would ever go there, but they're there in New Jersey too. And I just want to get a sense of, like, is this real? Is this happening? Heather, can you start? What are you seeing in Westchester right now?
Oh, this is the real deal, so to speak.
Perfect.
There is a massive flight to suburbia. It started, I would say, probably in late April, early May, and it started with rentals. Westchester started to become like the Hamptons here, where everybody was trying to get a summer rental. And slowly but surely, people then decided that maybe we'll try a year rental. And now it has turned into a massive buying frenzy. In my 15 years in real estate, I manage the #1 team here in Westchester. I've never, ever been busier. One of the trends I'm seeing, interestingly enough, with people moving from the city, that's always been my niche, is trying to help young families transition from the city to the suburbs. I give tours of the different neighborhoods, helping people figure out which town is right for them. Now we're doing contactless tours, of course, but that's always been my niche, but it has been insanely busy. And one of the trends we are seeing is families with no children moving to the suburbs.
Interesting.
Newly married, not pregnant yet, and some not even married, moving and buying homes in the suburbs. That has been a very new trend for me. I'm usually helping the young families trying to move here for the school district, obviously, early, trying to prepare for kindergarten, want to leave the city, deciding what to do. And so that's been a huge difference, I would say, in the market. We have extremely low inventory in Westchester. I think we're down about 40% in our inventory, and the supply is up, obviously, compared to last year. I think, deals in contract are up about 33% already. Yeah, wow. Year to year. So it's been a pretty incredible month. I think our spring market is now condensed, into this June and July probably. And people are really still trying to get in for the school year. I think there's sellers are starting to read those articles, and certainly I've been doing listing presentations literally every single day this week. There's some opportunistic sellers hoping to get, their house on the market and try to take advantage of this, buying frenzy. But, I'm still trying to advise people that, the houses that are moving are really ones that are still priced well. However, there are multiple offers, which we hadn't been seeing probably in several years, multiple bidding wars on almost every home under $2 million. It's pretty incredible.
It's a strong market. And Deirdre, okay, so check this out. I'm out here in Shelter Island with family, and there's a house next door. And, this is a summer kind of home. And the house next door, it's like an old Adirondack. They built it in like 1931. It has no insulation. It's really not much to look at. And they are renting it for about $30,000. And like, you couldn't pay me to spend a month in this place. And yet they're achieving top dollar, like an outrageous price in my view. Is that a reflection of kind of what you're seeing in the market on the North Fork and the South Fork, Deirdre? Like, what are you seeing right now?
It's really funny that you bring up Shelter Island, because the one wonderful thing about our new way of doing business is I can zoom around to office meetings all over, across the island. And I zoomed into Shelter Island today, and they were all excited because they have no inventory.
Nothing.
They're showing what they have like crazy. And one of the agents said, I have a new rental coming on. It's a tiny little cottage with an additional apartment over a garage. Not much, but it is that. It's on the water, and you can rent it for $35,000 for 1 month, and it's tiny. So the point is, yes, that there are no rentals. That's the bottom line. There are no rentals on Shelter Island and North Fork. That rush, of course, started in late March and all through April. Many of the rentals were taken, and people are turning to buy. Our North Fork numbers, as far as units, are up 58% this time in June over last year, and 73% in sales volume. And while
70%
in sales volume for the whole North Fork. And the prices are, things overpriced aren't selling, but the prices are up for our things under contract are up about 10% in that market. So it's hot. And one of the really interesting things I was hearing from the manager on the North Fork is that people are doing the opposite of what they usually do. They're buying in the secondary home market for their primary residence.
Right.
And they're rethinking Manhattan as their secondary place to live.
So Manhattan's the pied a terre, and now they live full time in the Hamptons, or in Cutchogue or something like that.
Correct. And they're actually enrolling their children in school. So it's a totally different mindset. I think they're banking on the fact that even when things do open up and people return to work, that they're not going to have to go to work 5 days a week and not have to go to the office in Manhattan 5 days a week. And we are seeing that across the island. Of course, we are in Nassau County as well, which is very reflective of what's going on in Westchester. We're seeing in the middle of the island where we have a lot, not in the middle, but on the North Shore where we have a lot of our bigger properties and estates that really have struggled over the past many years.
Like the Gold Coast, Deirdre?
Yes. They're seeing a renewed interest. People want property, they want pools, they want a pool house that maybe people one day can quarantine, or if their grown children come home, they have a place to stay. But I think the one thing that is consistent, which isn't consistent in the rental market, is that they want to move right in. It has to be turnkey. They don't want to do any work. Interest rates are amazing, so they can get right in. So from the North Fork to Nassau County, they want turnkey.
Paul, is this kind of mirroring what you're seeing out in Connecticut? These are areas that have maybe not had the best last few years as people kind of shifted more toward urban living. Are you back? Is Connecticut where you want it to be?
Yeah, I've heard some stuff that's happening up here, but some things are different also. I've been in the business for 30 years. I got in when I was 10, and I have never seen a marketplace like this at all, ever. Just from some statistics we did going back to April 20th, our Westchester operation, 46% of the buyers are from Manhattan. Connecticut and Fairfield County, 33% are. Litchfield County, 37% are from the boroughs of New York. As far as what they're requiring, I think we have to go back to see, because I don't think it's a short-term buying frenzy. I think it's somewhat has a permanence to it. And I think we have to get into that a little. I think basic needs have been affected, which are our basic needs are clothing, food, and shelter. And the shelter has been attacked and affected. New York has, there's 27,000 people per square mile in the boroughs. Westchester's got 1,900, Fairfield County's got 1,300, and Litchfield's got 400. Overnight, it went from a buyer's market to a seller's market, and also overnight, it went from people migrating to the city to people escaping to the suburbs. Our numbers are for the first 3 weeks of June, we're up 100% in Connecticut. We're up 250%, I'm sorry, in Fairfield County, 250% in Litchfield, and in our Westchester operation, we're up 53%. And again, it's from days on market, they're not going down a lot up front, because what's happening is a lot of the older inventory that has been on and that has more days on it is being meshed with the new one. But if you partake the new houses that are coming on, it's between 40 and 60 days. Prices are not coming down, or I'm sorry, are not increasing that much. I think that's going to happen in the near future. They're going to go up a lot because demand is going to definitely exceed supply, and I see for the foreseeable future. There's been 21,000 homes that have been sold in Fairfield County, Litchfield, and Westchester in a typical year in 2019. That's just with standard and demand. Manhattan and the boroughs have 3.5 million housing units and 8.5 million in population. There is no way that our areas can absorb, and I'm not saying all of them are going to move, just a very small percentage has to move, and it's going to flood our markets. And that's what's happening now. And that's why I think there's permanence in this whole movement that's happening.
It's funny because if you ask a New York City broker, let's say you ask somebody in a Manhattan office, they're going to tell you, no, they're going to be back. New York's already reopening. Give it 2 months. Wait until the summer goes. They're going to be back. They're going to have their kids in school.
Well, that's one of the issues. Yeah. That's one of the issues too, is that up in Litchfield and also in Fairfield County, they're looking at the school system. They don't think Manhattan's going to open come September, and they want to get their kids settled. They're coming in with cash, and they are for negotiation and for timing. They want to move in 3 to 4 weeks. They're going for the mortgage afterwards. So there's a lot of money. There's a middle to upper crust of the population that is, in my opinion, that is doing this. It's something that is unique to all of us, and the pandemic is something we've never been through. And I really think it's affecting the base need structure of everyone. And that's why I think it's not short-lived.
Interesting. Heather, can you talk a little bit about kind of like, let's say I'm from Manhattan and I go, you know what, I have a young family. I want to get out of here. What kind of house am I looking at? What kind of towns in Westchester am I targeting? Are they mostly about the school district? Are they like, what is the sweet spot? What are you most seeing?
A good question. Some younger folks that are, like I was talking about before, who are newly married with no children, are willing to kind of, go and get that starter home. They just, want to, have a nice backyard, have a place to grill, have a home office. So that, definitely home office is important. We're also seeing areas that are not typically considered, the best school districts, that are also getting a tremendous amount of play, because like we were saying before, people want these big backyards and these pools, and it's sometimes, it's more expensive, obviously, in the certain school districts to get that. So we're seeing like every fragment of the market doing well. So that's interesting. So yeah, I mean, mostly, a lot of times it's about schools, but we're also, like I said, the younger people are willing to go to the, the bigger, larger cities, and just, thinking about a 5 to 7 year term plan, and then kind of, we'll trade up later. And then some people, I think pool searches are up on Compass's website 200%. So that's been a big commodity for a lot of people, or, and backyards for sure are important to people. I'm finding people want less of an urban setting, willing to go further up north. I primarily do Southern Westchester, but my team obviously goes up north, and we have done more deals in the Chappaqua, Armonk, areas, Bedford, than ever before, because people are feeling they don't necessarily need to only be 30 minutes from Manhattan. That's also changed the mindset a little bit, when people always wanted to kind of be in Southern Westchester. So, that's kind of the trends that we're seeing.
Very interesting. Deirdre, can you talk a little bit about kind of how you guys are generating leads? Are you mostly getting calls from new clients, or these existing clients that are, whether they're selling or buying, do you already have relationships with most of the people that you're working with? Or
I think it's really across the board. Our agents have great relationships with people, so they're absolutely seeing that. We are getting a lot of referrals from Manhattan, and we actually have our Sotheby offices are having a meeting tomorrow, so we have a few agents going in to present our Long Island communities to them. So Sotheby's is sending referrals to us. Interesting also, I think early on in May, we started doing virtual open houses when we couldn't show properties, and we did a lot to promote that, boosting it online and boosting it on social media. And some of those virtual open houses saw 30, 40, 50 people in attendance. And those then became buyers that the agents are still working with, some of them, because they haven't been able to find the perfect property.
the virtual tour is effective.
I don't think it's going away. I think yes, we can do in-house showings now, and that's great. But I think it's a lot more effective if someone can virtually tour a property before coming and physically touring a property, for two reasons. It's more time efficient for the buyer, it's more time efficient for the agent, but more importantly, it's less intrusive for the homeowner, who doesn't have to have their home exposed to people that potentially are tire kicking or just trying to figure out where they are in their journey of purchasing a home. So yeah, leads are coming from everywhere, honestly, from relationships, from our website, from Sotheby's, from our other Sotheby affiliates. So we've
You
been
guys aren't
very
buying leads like, trolling through the New York Times wedding section and being like, hey, there's a potential buyer. Let's scoop them up. Like, you're just getting inundated.
I would never underestimate the ingenuity of any agent. I'm sure they're doing everything to try to get a lead. So yeah, that I wouldn't underestimate.
Cool. Paul, can I ask you, like, how much educating do buyers from the city need in terms of going to the suburbs? Like, I wouldn't know where to start if you told me you're going to be living in Greenwich next year.
Yeah, I think they're pretty sophisticated. I think they do have an understanding of the Tony towns and where they want to live, what they've heard about. And when they call up and they inquire, they are pretty well versed on what is happening. Obviously, they're asking us for more information. And I don't think there's a lot of selectivity that's going on based on the demand that's coming into our towns. To me, it's not town specific, it's across the board. We've got $2.5 million markets and we've got $300,000 markets right in Fairfield County, and they're all record busy. So I just think they're coming in. I think they have knowledge coming in and they're looking for our guidance, and that's what we do. But I think it's a scramble to find out where they want to live and how fast they can get in.
And are you telling your brokers anything about kind of, starting with a price point? Because obviously the pandemic has changed the calculus for a lot of different people. Are you mostly keeping things kind of where they were and seeing what kind of interest you generate before, dropping the price or increasing the price? Or kind of where are you now in terms of finding that sweet spot?
Well, this is pretty new. I mean, we're in this for 4 or 5 weeks. What we're seeing is that if the house is in perfect condition, you're at asking or slightly above. Multiple offers, though, are between 20 and 30%. In our Rye office, as an example, they were at 75% for the last 4 weeks, over $1.5 million. No, I guess that was over into 2 million. So the market is determining what the price is. And when you have a lot of demand there and there's multiple people that are going after it, that's pure capitalism. And that's why it's such a good industry to be in, because nobody sets the market except the people.
Heather, one thing that I've always found really interesting is the property tax question. And at least in New Jersey, like, okay, so you look at my parents, for example, they're empty nesters. They have a house. They're at the end of their 30-year mortgage. And they're like, what are we doing paying $23,000 a year when we don't have kids in the school district? We don't commute into New York City anymore. Like, what are we doing? Are these the sellers that you're finding right now? Or are they different profiles?
No, definitely. That's exactly who our sellers are. The one thing that's, I think, also affecting the supply is the fact that so many of my potential sellers who, their kids are grown and we're thinking about moving to an apartment or back to the city or to Florida, become snowbirds, have now decided they've enjoyed quarantine in their home and are very glad that they had their home and didn't move downsize to an apartment necessarily. And now those people have decided not to put their homes on the market. I don't know if you guys are having the same problem, but that's part of affecting our supply a little bit. We definitely have a lot of empty nesters who are decided to stay and just will continue to pay the taxes and enjoy their big, beautiful backyards for the time being, and don't want to start going out and putting themselves out there and trying to find a new place to live.
Actually,
downsize.
Interesting, Heather, we had a couple of contracts cancel. They didn't care. They paid a premium to stay and not close on a property because they didn't want to leave their apartment, their house, to go to the apartment.
We had a house on the market for, pre-COVID, I call it, since January, not one offer, 30 showings, not one offer. I get an offer literally in March, like, Scarsdale closed really early actually. And we had an offer probably 2 weeks later at like full ask. And they're like, nope, sorry, we are not leaving, so
Are you also seeing, we're also seeing people moving up within their communities because they've been in this house and 2 parents are working, they have got kids homeschooling, they don't want to stay in this house one more second, they need more space now.
Totally. That has been a big segment of my market as well. The trade ups, I call them. I am actually doing an inspection as we speak for someone who's moving up, within Scarsdale. And yeah, that's what we're seeing tremendously. A lot of that movement more than anything, for sure.
Fascinating. Can you guys talk a little bit about sort of the SALT question? I think that's been sort of the ugly acronym weighing on the suburbs and a lot of areas around New York City. Is that a big concern among buyers these days? Or is it just kind of like we're building that into the cost of getting out of the city?
You know, James, I think that's kind of interesting because when we start, you know, that was really a really big issue for us going into 2019. And I think it really affected our early part of 2019. But towards the end of 2019 and the beginning of 2020, it became our new normal, that, in my opinion. And we really started seeing business come back. I stood in front of our company on February 2nd and said, this is going to be an amazing year. I had no idea we were going to have COVID, of course.
Sure.
And I think that in my mind, it was because we had digested salt. And if you really wanted to live on Long Island and in New York State, that was just it was part of the game. You know, we're, you know, right outside Manhattan. We have great things and our taxes are really high. We have amazing schools. So I think now more than ever, it's not an issue. It's not as big an issue as it was. I mean, we still have ridiculously high taxes, but if you want to live here, it is what it is.
Yeah, I don't think it's an issue at all. I think I agree and Deirdre, it's been totally absorbed in the marketplace. The markets were booming for the last 6 months prior to COVID. And to me, the demand is just taking over and it's not coming into play at all. People need houses to live in, and it's a beautiful thing to see.
Yes.
One thing that I find really interesting here is you guys seem to have like record interest and a lot of demand for your services, but brokerage is a tricky business and the margins are pretty low. And a lot of the brokerage companies have made, you know, layoffs and they've cut staffing. Are you guys bringing staffing back to deal with some of this demand, or how are you getting the work done? It's such a difficult time for so many different types of people.
Yeah, we didn't lay anyone off. We took a 15% pay cut for all the employees for 8 weeks. Now they're back at full. They were working from home and remotely 5 days a week. We didn't miss a beat. We've implemented virtual tools with a virtual playbook, with a listing 360, which encompasses everything that a written document has and a written brochure. And we can go all virtual or we can go back to the old way, but we didn't miss a beat, and we're glad that we invested in our employees.
I would say that we did somewhat similar. We did also take price cuts, salary cuts. We brought back a certain price point in the first stage one, which we've done as of this past week. And our second group will start in the next pay cycle. And we are bringing back our part-time people eventually. We haven't done that yet, but it's in the plans. And we are so grateful to our people because they worked and learned how to work differently so fast. And they did it out of dedication and commitment to our company and to our agents. And it was really heartwarming, and it showed the strength of the culture and the culture of our company, really. So it's been a great learning experience for all of us.
Yes, same with Compass. You know, Compass offered us incredible technology right from the get-go in terms of being able to offer, you know, everything virtual for our clients. And so, you know, same thing, I think we adapted so quickly, and same thing, my team, you know, I have a pretty big team, and we all, even agents who haven't been busy in the past are so busy right now. I'm sure you guys are seeing that. Agents who don't do typically a ton amount of business are really busy. So, you know, it's been a really big learning curve, but I think everyone's kind of adapting. And I think there's a lot of great things that have come out of it for efficiency purposes. Like you were saying before, Deirdre, you know, I think that inspections are a little bit more, you know, efficient, showings are more efficient. And I'm finding that buyers are coming and, you know, not just like kicking the tires, so to speak, that they're really serious and we're all, you know, working smarter.
Deirdre, you mentioned earlier in our chat that you guys had some sort of a partnership or some sort of a referral business with a New York City brokerage?
We work with we refer back and forth with primarily, of course, Sotheby's. So we are a Sotheby's affiliate, and we work extremely well with Sotheby's in Manhattan. And I think they see the opportunity. I mean, I believe they must see that their business is going to be affected. So they are seeing the opportunity to learn more about our communities now so that they can be a part of the process of referring their customers and clients to Daniel Gale Sotheby's on Long Island. And so we've seen even a great increase in their interest in having our agents speak to their agents.
So that's happening for you as well, Heather and Paul?
Yeah. I would agree with that. Prior to joining Compass, my husband and I owned our own real estate firm in Westchester called Platinum Drive Realty. And one of the reasons why we joined forces with Compass is to have that city to suburbs connection and have those relationships. And we're very fortunate. Obviously, Compass has a huge brand in Manhattan. And so those relationships have been so key to my business. I mean, I did a lot of business before, but those relationships have really been incredible. And I, in terms of the amount of referrals that I've gotten in the past month have been, outstanding, and has been a huge increase for my business.
I want to wrap some of this up by asking you guys very specifically, which towns are you seeing the most interest in your respective communities? Deirdre, can we start with you in Long Island?
We cover 100 miles, so it's hard to say, but I would say that in the western Nassau area, immediately in May, the Manhasset area and Port Washington area went on fire. And we couldn't even show houses. And what we're seeing now, as we have had more time to digest it, we're seeing areas like Cold Spring Harbor and the Brookvilles, and those areas with the bigger properties get a lot more attention than they did in the past. And of course, the East End has been, from the moment of the rental craziness to now the buying frenzy, has been on. I mean, all those towns have been on fire. There's no inventory.
Right, Paul. What's hot in Connecticut and Westchester for you?
Yeah, in Westchester, it's Rye, Larchmont, Scarsdale, Bronxville, Irvington. It's and like I said before, it's a wave. People are not, and what I'm seeing, are not picking on particular towns. I'm sure they have preferences, but it's where they can find a house that suits their needs, both from schooling and from space and from amenities. And in Connecticut, Southern Fairfield County, and I heard that Greenwich, we don't have an office there, but in Greenwich is booming. Darien, New Canaan, Westport, the Shoreline's getting business, Litchfield, it's through the roof. It's across the board. It really is. It's not anything in particular. It's they cannot handle the demand.
I'm going to agree with Paul and just also add, I think the biggest difference is commutability to Manhattan is no longer the big factor. And I think that used to drive a lot of where the demand was. And while those communities are still doing fine, the other communities are also extremely busy and participating in this boom. Usually, it's different segments at different times. It's everyone.
It's funny, like it used to be like Montclair was the town. It was like little Brooklyn unto itself, and people took the train in, and that was kind of it. And that brings me to another question, which is, a lot of developers were building all these, apartment, not towers, but apartment buildings right next to transit. And I don't see that as in demand as it once was. Is anyone here tasked with selling some of these or renting some of these properties for developers, and kind of what conversations are you having with them?
Yeah. Our rental market is as busy as our for sale market. So the towers that we have a big, it's BLT, Harbor Point and Stamford, and they are at 95% as far as, so they haven't been affected at all, and they're getting the benefit of this also.
Interesting.
Rents are going up. So that shit tells you that demand's exceeding supply.
All right, awesome. Well, thank you guys so much for being with me today. I really appreciate it. This has been a lot of fun, and we should do another check-in later in the summer, see if anyone can find me a good deal.
Thanks,
Yeah.
James.
Good, James. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, James.
Bye, Heather. Bye, Paul.
So long. All right, Heather.